Good morning, devotees, Prabhus and Prabhus. I am your default speaker for Srimad Bhagavatam today. And we're going to approach the verse number 9 of the first chapter of the 5th canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nasta Prayesva Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamas Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Okay, so the verse goes as okay. Tatra hava enam devarshir hamsa yanena pitaram bhagavantam hiranya garbham upalabhamana sahasaivutajit tayarhe hanena sahapita putrabhyam avahitanjali upastate. And the synonyms: Tatra, there; Hava, certainly; Enam, him; Deva Rishi, great saint Narada; Hamsa Yanina, by the swan carrier; Pitaram, his father; Bhagavantam, most powerful; Hiranya Garbham, Lord Brahma; Upalabhamana, under in Sahasa Eva, immediately; Uttaya, having stood up; Arhanena, with paraphernalia for worship; Saha, accompanied; Pita Putrabhiham, by Priyavrata and his father, Swayambhuva Manu; Avahita Anjali, with respect and folded hands; Upataste, worshipped. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Very short purport. Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great swan, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore, he immediately stood up, along with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Priyavrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect. Purport. As stated in the previous verse, Lord Brahma was accompanied by other demigods, but his specific carrier was the great Swan. Therefore, as soon as Narada Muni saw the swan, he could understand that his father, Lord Brahma, who is also known as Hiranyagarbha, was arriving. Thus, he immediately stood up with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Priyavrata to receive Lord Brahma and offer him respect. The verse again, Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great swan, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore, he immediately stood up, along with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Priyavrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksuru Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Vanchakalpa Taruvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavavyo Namo Namaha. So this is a very short purport. Usually we like to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada by analyzing the verse and the purport. Prabhupada called them his private ecstasies, right? The purport. And he had no pretensions or false ego. He actually gave the credit to Krishna. It wasn't like Prabhupada liked to hear a glorification of himself. Matter of fact, he will have devotees in Los Angeles, in the garden, a beautiful, very, very tiny garden that devotees created for Srila Prabhupada in such bustling metropole, with the traffic coming from Venice Boulevard, only half a block away. And Prabhupada would sit in the garden and enjoy hearing the Krishna book. The devotees would read, sometimes they would read Chaitanya Charitamrita, but mostly Krishna book. And Prabhupada would be delighted because he was, of course, Prabhupada wrote it, but he was guided by Krishna's hand. So it was newer and newer, Nava Navarasa. This is how Krishna consciousness is or should be, that every time you hear, it's not like you say, oh, yeah, I heard that one before. Or, yeah, I had that quote. Oh, I had that pastime. Oh, yeah, I remember Prabhupada doing this or that. If one is not enthusiastic about hearing about spiritual activities and lila and philosophy, there is something wrong in one's practice because the taste is not there. So maybe due to offenses, maybe due to, as Prabhupada calls it, poor fund of knowledge, maybe due to immaturity, whatever the reason, we should fix it right away. It's like driving a car with deflated tires. It's not going to go very far. So that's how we should approach Krishna consciousness, as a newer experience every time. When people are trying very desperately to be noticed, to have, they think that they equal popularity with real fame. Real fame is to become a pure devotee, because then everybody will know about, and you wouldn't care. This, because along with becoming pure, detachment comes. This is a characteristic of advancement, that you don't really care whether people praise you or vilify you, whether you or rich or poor, whether you're famous or infamous, as long as Krishna is pleased. This is the sign of advancement. So here, Narada Muni is instructing Priyavrata very kindly, as he usually does. And Lord Brahma, his father, shows up because they could see a swan. It's a gigantic swan. It's like if you see a huge limo, some celebrity must be there. So it's like a particular car that you can associate with a person. Or when you see Air Force One, the president is nearby or within the airplane. So when you see the swan, Lord Brahma is coming. So immediately they all stood up and started worshiping him. And Lord Brahma is the most intelligent person. His body is made of intelligence, and showed up because it was getting difficult to tell Priyavrata about what was about to become his duty to rule the world, because there are a lot of things that go along with it. Even if you become anything, if you become the manager of a convenience store, there's people looking up to you, and troubles that come your way that if you weren't in that position, they wouldn't come. And what to speak of becoming the emperor of the whole universe? That's a tough job. So Maharaj Priyavrata knew about this and just didn't really want to do that. But he was trying, they were trying to convince him. So Lord Brahma had to come personally with a bunch of sages to make the emphasis. The sages came as the italics in a sentence, just for emphasis. And Maharaj Priyavrata, being a good devotee, he agreed. He agreed. So I'm gonna take a little help from my friends, as per the Lennon-McCartney lyrics, and read from a letter to Mr. Loy, written by Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, November 7th, 1972. This is thanks to Taraka Prabhu, who is very alert and found a good connection between the verse and this particular letter. It's a long letter, but it's wonderful to hear. To Mr. Loy, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated November 7, 1972, and I can very much understand your concern. After all, she is your beloved daughter, and you have sacrificed everything just to bring her to the point of proper education, training, and so many things are there between you. But what can I say? In your country, the girls are independent, and from very young age, they are accustomed to mix with young boys, so naturally, there will be attraction, sex desire, and marriage. Actually, this whole material world is running on this attraction between man and woman. It is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that once the boy and girl unite intimately, the hard knot is formed, and the girl is thinking, oh, without him, I am lost. And the boy is thinking, oh, without her, I am lost. That is Maya's arrangement for keeping us bound up tightly in a material atmosphere. If wife is there, then some money must be coming. That means work, land or factory, children, home, friends, community, nation. Like that, there is increasing complication of illusion of thinking, this is mine, that is mine. But they do not know that one day death will kick them out mercilessly, and neither home nor wife nor children, nothing can prevent that. All along, he is thinking these things are like soldiers of security to safeguard his happy life. But they are described as fallible soldiers because they will not help us at all. When the moment of death is there, no one may protect us, as if we are not prepared for that moment by practicing Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. Then we shall be struck with fear, and we shall not know where we are going after and what kind of body we may be forced by nature to take. But this kind of householder life of Grihameda consciousness does not apply to our marriages in Krishna consciousness movement. No, because the sex urge is so strong in young persons, and because they are used to mixing freely with one another, I encourage my students to get themselves married. But our point is not that heart knot is as above described. It is simply a relationship of mutually helping each other, man and wife, to make advancement in spiritual life, nothing more. We are not after home, money, fame, like that. But that does not mean that he shall not support her nicely. No, it is the duty of husband to protect wife in every way from the onslaught of material nature, and he must act always as her spiritual guide by being perfect example of devotee. Women are not so quick to learn, and they are weak by nature, so they should be protected in this way. In our Vedic science of living, it is enjoined that the society should be organized in such a way to protect women, children, old people, and cows, because factually all of them are innocent. So children have parents, elderly persons must have grown up children to protect them, and women must have husbands. It is recommended that they should be married at very early age. Then the wife will remain always chaste and devoted to her husband. At such a young age, from the first night onwards, she can never for a moment forget him, being still child and unspoiled. Therefore, she becomes the perfect chaste wife. And in those times, the wife was so much devoted to her husband that she will voluntarily die in the fire of his cremation, unable to live without him. Myself, I was very young when I got married, and my wife was 11 years old only. But there is no question of separation in our marriage belief. Neither your daughter will be ever separated from that boy. That is their vow. Rather, it is when people are a little grown up, when they have got little independence and their own ways of doing things. Then if they marry, there is often difficulty to adjust, just as it is more difficult to bend the bamboo when it is yellow. So I can assure you that you may have nothing to fear that your daughter has married such a nice boy. Bahunam jammanamante gyanavam mam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. This is from the Gita 7:19. Krishna assures us that after many, many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. In this light, try to view these children. They have realized that life together spent in the pursuit of God is real knowledge, and that they have not done lightly by any means. No, actually, they must be considered as great souls, the most exalted persons among all persons. Our married couples are rendering the greatest service to humanity, their countrymen, and to their parents. Of that, kindly be assured by me. Do not worry for anything in this connection. You are a great gentleman, otherwise you could not have fostered such intelligent daughter and gentleman, and known to be broad-minded. So therefore I appeal to you as their spiritual father to encourage them in every respect. Hoping this meets you in good health. Yours truly, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. There's more that Tarka Prabhu compiled. There's a letter to Madhukar, Bombay, January 4th, 1973, a couple months later. My dear Madhukar, I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter that dated December 22nd, 1972, and I have noted the contents with care. For these questions arising between married husband and wife, you're requesting me to leave your wife and take the Vanaprastha order of life. For these questions, you must consult with and take permission from presidents and GBC. Yes, I know your wife, Lila Shakti, and I know that she is very serious and advanced disciple. But now you're married to her. I wonder if this is the Lila Shakti I knew, Rose Forkash's daughter. But now you're married to her, so there is some obligation according to our Krishna consciousness or Vedic system. This things cannot be taken so lightly, otherwise the whole thing will become a farce. Simply get married without considering what is the serious nature of married life. Then if there is little disturbance, or if I do not like my wife or my husband, let me go away. Everyone else is doing that. So in this way, the whole thing is becoming a farce. You say that your association together was hindering your advancement. But Krishna consciousness marriage system should not be taken in that way. That if there is any botheration, that means something is hindering my spiritual progress. No. Once it is adopted, the Grihastha life, even it may be troublesome at times, it must be fulfilled as my occupational duty. Of course, it is better to remain unmarried, celibate. But so many women are coming. We cannot reject them. If someone comes to Krishna, it is our duty to give them protection. Krishna has informed us in Bhagavad Gita that even women and suitors, another inferior class of men, can take refuge in him. So the problem is there. Women must have a husband to give protection. Of course, if a woman can remain unmarried, and if there is suitable arrangement for the temple to protect them, just like in the Christian church, there is nunnery for systematic program of engaging the ladies and protecting them. That is also nice. But if there is sex desire, how to control it? Women are normally lusty, more lusty than men, and they are weaker sex. It is difficult for them to make spiritual advancement without the help of husband. So for so many reasons, our women must have husband. That's all right. But if once they have got a husband, he goes away so quickly, that will not be very much happy for them. Now, I do not know the situation in your particular case. I'm simply giving you the general policy of background understanding. We should never think of our so-called advancement as being conditioned by or dependent upon some set of material circumstances, such as marriage, vanaprastha, or this or that. Mature understanding of Krishna consciousness means that whatever condition of life I am in the present, that is Krishna's special mercy upon me. Therefore, let me take advantage in the best way possible to spread this Krishna consciousness movement and conduct my spiritual master's mission. If I consider my own personal progress or happiness or any other thing personal, that is material consideration. If there was unhappy adjustment for becoming married, why you got married at all? Whatever is done is done. That is a fact. But I am only pointing out that once before you did something without proper study of your real responsibility, now you're contemplating again some drastic action in a similar manner. Therefore, consider it carefully in this light. There is one verse from Bhagavad Gita, Yasman nodvijati loko lokan nodvijati chaya. Harsamarsa payod vegair muktoya sacha me priya. He for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anxiety, who is steady in happiness and distress, is very dear to me. That's from Gita 12:15. One mistake of judgment often made by a neophyte devotees is that anytime there is some disturbance or some difficulty, they are considering that the conditions or the external circumstances under which the difficulty took place are the cause of the difficulty itself. That is not the fact. In the material world, in this material world, there is always some difficulty, no matter if this situation or that situation. Therefore, simply by changing my status of occupation or my status of life, that will not help anything. Because the real fact is that there is any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Is this clear? Krishna says that his dearest devotee is one who does not put others into difficulty. In fact, who puts no one other into difficulty. So try to judge the matter on these points, whether or not you're putting either your wife or yourself into some difficulty. The right understanding of Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna's understanding. In other words, Arjuna came to the conclusion that he must perform his occupational duty, not as a material obligation for reasons of wife, family, friends, reputation, professional integrity, like that. No. Rather, he must conduct the functions of his station of life only as a devotional service performed for Krishna. That means that devotional service is what is important, not my occupational duty. But it does not mean that because occupational duty is not the real consideration that I should give it up and do something else, thinking that devotional service may be carried on under whatever circumstances which I may whimsically decide. Krishna recommended Arjuna to remain as he was, not to disrupt the order of society and go against his own nature just for convenience sake. Our occupational duty is not arbitrary. That means once we have taken up some field of action, if we are advanced in our understanding, then we shall not change it for another. Rather, our devotion is the important factor. So what does it matter what I am doing, so long my work and energy are completely devoted to Krishna? Just like Krishna, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no work, neither he has anything to do. Still, he comes here to teach us this lesson. He accepts not only his occupational duty as coward boy, royal prince, but also he accepts married life. He enters politics. He is a philosopher. He is even a chariot driver during the great battle. He does not give example of himself avoiding his occupational duty. So if Krishna himself is exhibiting by his own conduct what is the perfection of existence, then we should heed such example if we are intelligent. Even supposing there is wife at home with children, it does not matter. That is no hindrance to our spiritual life. And once we have accepted these things, occupational duties, we should not lightly give them up. That is the point. Of course, our occupational duty is as preachers of Krishna consciousness. So we must stick to that business under all circumstances. That is the main thing. Therefore, married, unmarried, divorced, whatever condition of life, my preaching mission does not depend on these things. The Varnashram Dharma system is scientifically arranged by Krishna to provide facility for delivering the fallen souls back to home, back to Godhead. And if we make a mockery of this system by whimsically disrupting the order, that we must consider. That will not be a very good example if so many young boys and girls so casually became married, then go away from each other, and the wife is a little unhappy, the husband is neglecting her in so many ways like that. If we set this example, then how the things will go on properly. Household life means wife, children, home. These things are understood by everyone. Why our devotees have taken it as something different? They simply have some sex desire, get themselves married, and when the matter does not fulfill their expectations, immediately there is separation. These things are just like material activities, prostitution. A wife is left without husband, and sometimes there is child to be raised. In so many ways, the proposition that you and some others also are making becomes distasteful. We cannot expect that our temples will become places of shelter for so many widows and rejected wives. That will be a great burden, and we shall become the laughing stock in the society. There will be unwanted progeny also, and there will be illicit sex life. That we are already seeing. And being the weaker sex, women require to have a husband who is strong in Krishna consciousness, so that they may take advantage and make progress by sticking tightly to his feet. If their husband goes away from them, what will they do? So many instances are there already in our society, so many frustrated girls and boys. So I have introduced this marriage system in your Western countries because there is custom of freely intermingling male and female. Therefore, marriage requires just to engage the boys and girls in devotional service, never mind distinction of living status. But our marriage system is a little different than in your country. We do not sanction on the policy of quick divorce. We're supposed to take husband or wife as eternal companion or assistant in Krishna consciousness service. And there is promise never to separate. Of course, if there is any instance of a very advanced disciple, married couple, and they have agreed that the husband shall now take sannyas or renounce order of life, being mutually very happy by that arrangement, then there is ground for such separation. But even in those cases, there is no question of separation. The husband, even in his sannyas, must be certain his wife will be taken care of nicely and protected in his absence. Now, so many cases are there of unhappiness by the wife who has been abandoned by her husband against her wishes. So how can I sanction such thing? I want to avoid setting any bad example for future generations. Therefore, I'm so much cautiously considering your request. But if it becomes so easy for me to get married and then leave my wife under excuse of married life being an impediment to my own spiritual progress, that will not be very good at all. That is misunderstanding of what is advancement in spiritual life. Occupational duty must be there, either this one or that one. But once I am engaged in something occupational duty, then I should not change that or give it up. That is the worst mistake. Devotional service is not bound up by such designations. Therefore, once I have chosen, it is better to stake in that way and develop my devotional attitude into full-blown love of God. That is Arjuna's understanding. Hoping this meets you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And there is some more, but I think we got a nice sample. Let's see, at least one more letter. I will read that. Also to Madhukara, Bombay, 4th January 1973. Anyway, the point is that Maharaj Yudhishthira, he now, how responsible king, just think over.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's actually a purport. The next item is a purport. The reference there was meant to be at the end of the letter.
Yes, you're right. That was for a previous letter. This is a purport of the Bhagavatam 1.8.51, May 1373, Los Angeles. Thank you. Anyway, the point is that Maharaj Yudhishthira, he now a responsible king, just think over. Arjuna was also thinking before fighting. He was arguing with Krishna that if I kill my brothers, my sister-in-laws, there will be widow. And there was no such thing as widow marriage in India. No widow can marry. Why? Because the woman population is greater than the man. If widow again marries, then the married girl does not get the chance to have another husband. Therefore, there was no widow marriage. Widow marriage was especially allowed only when the girl did not see her husband at any time while she had no children. Formerly, in our days, younger days, although the girl was married at an early age, she was not allowed to see her husband unless she is grown up fully. Unless she has attained puberty, she is not. She lives with her parents, but she knows that I have got my husband. This consciousness is a great pleasure for a woman psychologically, that I have got husband. A very nice system. And when the girl grows up, puberty, then again, another ceremony is taken. That is almost like second marriage. The girl goes to her husband to live with her husband. This was the system. So women were taken so much care by the Vedic civilization. Still they are taken. It is the duty of a father. Until she is married, it is the duty of a father to give her all protection. Therefore, the father wants to get her married, to get relief from the responsibility. He has a great responsibility. It is called Kanya Daya. Actually, the word is called Kanya Daya. Putra Rina. Rina means debt. If you're a debtor to somebody, you may not pay it, saying, sir, I have no money. Whatever you like, you can do. But Daya means a great burden. It must be get relief from. Daya means a great responsibility. Daya bhag. Just like a son inherits the property of a father. It is called Daya bhag, law. Similarly, this is most obligatory duty of a father to get the daughter married. And then it is the duty of the husband next. Just like we get, when we perform marriage ceremony in our society, we get the husband promise that he takes charge of a girl for life. And the girl agrees to serve a boy for life. There is no question of divorce. So the father hands over the charge to a nice boy. Never mind he's rich or not. That doesn't matter. He must be a responsible boy who knows his responsibility. Not that today I marry and tomorrow I go away. That's all. Not like that. Still, you will find in India, even the poorest man living with husband and wife very happily. Still, you will find, I have seen, Ahmedabad. One day I saw in the street one husband and wife pulling on a tilla, a handcart, with great load, and the small child is on the load. That means their child. They are laborer class, but ordinary laborer class, poor men. But they're living, husband and wife and children, happily, still. So marriage is very compulsory in Vedic system because who is to take charge of a woman? They require protection. The father must take charge naturally, or the husband. When she's old, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking charge of his widow mother. So when he took sannyas, so mother became very much upset. Oh, that I have no husband and this boy is going to take sannyas, naturally. But that is a different case. For Krishna's sake, we can forsake our obligatory duties. For Krishna's sake, in the Shastra, it is said that one who has fully surrendered to Krishna, he has no more any material duty. Neither he has got any obligation that he must perform. But so long he is not fully surrendered to Krishna. He has to execute each and every duty as obligatory. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is a little distasteful to some, perhaps. Prabhupada using some, perhaps, what is seen as disparaging language, calling women weak and not as intelligent, etc., etc. This is not what I intended to promulgate by reading this letter. It was the point of duty and the loyalty, how this is valued in Krishna consciousness, that once we make a vow, whether it be a purely spiritual vow, like chanting 16 rounds, or a mixed vow, like taking care of each other, husband and wife, during good and bad times, for the sake of Krishna consciousness. That's a spiritual vow. So it's not that as soon as there is an inconvenience, one should interrupt or give up one's vow. This is the purpose of human life, is to take whatever is necessary in order to make advancement and to go back to Godhead. So it's not like as soon as a marriage becomes difficult, oh, this is too troublesome, and I will be Krishna conscious by avoiding the trouble. No, because the trouble is simply a way to train, like Krishna has to train us in order to acquire those things that we lack. Like if you're too attached, then Krishna will actually work on making you detach. And if you don't get the message, then it will be done by force. And this is for everyone. So in some cases, like the case of Maharaj Priyavrata, he was an advanced devotee and he didn't want any trouble. But as we can see, trouble is simply part of our curriculum. There's, just by living in the material world, you will experience trouble of any sort and all sort, and not like at the end of the trouble is the rainbow with a pot of gold. No, there is more trouble expecting. But these are simply exercises in order to become advanced in Krishna consciousness. So for husband and wife, how to, first of all, if one is young and the hormones are raging, then marriage is the solution, at least a temporary solution, to pacify this urge and engage it in Krishna consciousness. And otherwise, there will be rampant lust, like there is in general society, where people they do not discriminate. They mix all sorts of lusty innuendos with their common parlance, and they spread it like poison. It's like they don't care. They think if you, it's like these Osho, Rajneesh, he used to preach that lust is indeed an inconvenience. Actually, that's how he explained it. This is a problem. And the way to, the way to get rid of it is to indulge in it. It's to indulge in indiscriminate sex. So the more you do it, the more you become disgusted. And the more you just don't feel like doing it anymore. But this is simply like pouring fuel on a fire. When in the beginning, when you pour fuel, especially if it's just something thick like kerosene or even ghee, that the fire seems to go down because of the viscosity, because of the density of the fuel. But it comes back raging. Or when you put when fire is burning nicely and then you put more wood on top, it seems like the fire dies down, but it doesn't. It's just warming up to burn higher and stronger. So this is no way to control lust, to indulge, is by controlling the senses. And for those majority, the great majority of human beings, they have no control over their senses. So therefore, they are not qualified to be celibate. So they need to indulge in regulated sex and with a loyal partner. But this is not the goal. The goal is to actually reduce it to nil and dedicate all one's energy to worship and love Krishna. So it's a very systematic purpose. It's a slow process, not so slow because life goes by rather quickly. I just remember that the days lasted a long time when I was growing up, but nowadays the months go by, the years go by rather quickly. So in this lifetime, we need to get our act together and dedicate ourselves to practice Krishna consciousness seriously, to take our vows seriously, and to disregard this conception that inconveniences are bad. Inconveniences are simply roadblocks not meant to distract us and make us take a detour through Maya's kingdom, but is simply a way to make us stronger. Like Krishna puts rocks on the road back to him so we can lift him and get the muscle and get the paved path back to Godhead. And nobody said it's going to be easy, but what's the alternative? Alternative is to be again born in the material world and subject to the same thing: infamy, ignominy, indifference, love and hate, all the dichotomies and the opposite feelings from everything and everyone. This is a very troublesome world. It's getting much worse, much worse. I was looking for something on the computer, and I saw this animal. This it's not even a human being. Someone driving a Tesla, who in the Los Angeles area, that with road rage, not anything could provoke his road rage. So somebody came too close to his car, or somebody honked, or even something totally unrelated, the guy will stop his car in the middle of the road and come out with a iron pipe and try to destroy the car and hit people. So he did it for quite a while, and eventually this animal was caught. So this material world, yap padam yadvi padam natisham. There's trouble, and there is fear. There are problems at every step. So, of course, marriage is like that, and so is celibacy. So is single life. It's not like the problem is maybe in the mind, and you bring your mind and you try to convive with another mind, and that may be troublesome. But even when the other mind goes away, your mind is still troubling. So was the problem the combination, or the problem was that the mind, the individual mind, was giving trouble? So we should address these issues as is all coming from me. It's all because of my lack of spiritual advancement. I need to work on that. And then things will be a lot better. Just like detachment will come automatically if one practices Krishna consciousness. This is the result of true spiritual discipline, that happiness will be part of it. Actually, it is a fact that if one is Krishna conscious, one will be happy in any circumstance. And whatever our occupational duty may be, that should be our shelter. Okay. I'm going to stop here. If there are any, well, just a few minutes for questions, comments, discretions, chastisements, and other such things. Anyone? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class and thank you for Prabhupada's powerful letters. If you could please share, that will be great. One clarification. You said occupational duty is whatever our occupational duty is, our shelter in Krishna consciousness. So what does this occupational duty mean? Like, okay, for a person who's married, who has a family, taking care of that family, or for people like me who work outside, so you say, okay, both of them are your occupational duty. What does it actually imply in the discussion that we're having about the Grahastha life? If I may ask.
You may ask for sure. There is a tendency that comes with every individual, and it many times comes from previous lives, that we have a particular tendency. Like some children know they want to be dentists or doctors or engineers or lawyers or mechanics just from a get-go. They have no other interest. I remember being in school, and there was a boy that had no interest in school except for drawing cars and talking about cars and fixing cars. So this may be a very strong tendency that can be engaged, occupied in the service of Krishna. So you, even though your case is different because your mother wanted you to be a doctor, you didn't want to be a doctor, but you ended up being a doctor, and a good one at that. And also you have a family. So how to balance both things? Your varnashram, your connection with the varnashram, in this case, this is your connection, like you're plugged in to the source of electricity. If you don't have this connection, you won't be able to move the parts. So you have an occupational duty. You're a doctor, and you have an occupation as a parent. That is also part of the deal. It's not like one thing to the exception of the other. All these things, we wear many hats. All of us wear many hats, and we do different things, and we have certain duties to perform. Like you certainly cannot neglect your patients for the sake of your kids, or your kids for the sake of your patients. You have to balance both. So it's a balancing act. But that you say you work outside. This outside inside is a very gray area to me. I mean, I don't think in the old times when someone worked outside, what they call outside, that was or live outside of a temple. It was the equivalent of blooping, of not being a devotee. I don't think this is no longer a concern. You can be a baker or a builder or a doctor or anything, policeman, and do your work, your job, but doesn't mean that you have to think about that your consciousness is maybe permeated by the occupation that you have chosen, or that destiny providence has chosen for you. But it doesn't mean that you have to think. If you can work in the field behind oxen or horses, but it doesn't mean that you have to think about dirt all day. You may be thinking about Krishna. For example, my friend Varshana Swami, he was Kashyapa once before he took sannyasa. He was using all the heavy equipment, that earth-moving equipment in New Vrindavan because New Vrindavan is very hilly, so it's very difficult to build anything or to grow anything if it is not flat surface. So he was leveling the earth, literally moving millions of metric tons of dirt from one place to another, always wearing overalls and so on. And he will come to, just to give class once in a while. I think on Saturday he was giving Bhagavatam class. And his classes were incredible, like being transported to the spiritual world. So you can tell he was driving a excavator, but he wasn't. His consciousness was absorbed in the Lord's philosophy and pastimes. So this is what we have to perfect, or at least try to utilize our. That you could be chanting, you could be actually thinking of a particular section of one of the books, or of a lecture, or of a point, or just develop your own take on any philosophical or point, or a particular lila, or something that reminds you of your guru or Krishna or the devotees, even when you're doing whatever duty it is that you're doing. Of course, you can't be distracted if you're trying to revive a child that is not breathing. You can't be thinking of Haridas Thakur. Perhaps you may be thinking of, well, I have to bring this child to life, but you cannot be thinking. You cannot forget that this is a spirit soul. It has its own destiny, and you may remember a particular pastime of the Lord, like Chitraketu Maharaj's child that also lost his life, but when he came back by the will of Narada Muni, he actually could not answer in the way that Chitraketu Maharaj wanted to hear. How can you, Narada Muni asked, how can you make your father suffer? And the child, who was dead, came back to life and said, which father? I had so many. So we cannot, perhaps we should not neglect our duty and try to save the life of a child. And at the same time, we can understand this is a spirit soul and has its own trajectory, its own destiny. And I am an instrument in Krishna's hands. And if Krishna wants, the child will come back. And if Krishna doesn't want, the child will go on his or her journey. So there's a lot of things that we are juggling at the same time, and we have to become expert at doing it right, because otherwise you will become depressed. And I'm sure as your job is very difficult to see all day children that are suffering. And of course, they're not children. They're spirit souls that they're spirit souls that they have acquired a particular body, and now they're going through childhood. But they're spirit souls. They're fully independent from their bodies. But because we don't have spiritual vision, we can only see the body. We think, we identify them with the body of a child. So even though you have a particularly difficult task to separate the body from the soul, and I wish you luck. It's very difficult. As I told you before, preaching to some friends of mine from childhood, doctors. They may understand part of a philosophy, but when it comes to a child suffering, all philosophy goes out the window. They cannot understand a word. They just see the body of a child suffering, and they just cannot accommodate any philosophical thought after that. So you are in a privileged position that you are a good devotee of Krishna, and you're seeing children suffering, and you can still think, okay, yes, I need to do my duty, which is to help this particular soul in the body of a child. But I have to understand this is a soul that is in a sojourn, going through suffering and enjoyment, life and death. And this, all I can do is my best, but one shouldn't get depressed. It's like an actor. They say that a professional actor, especially in plays, not in this, this celebrity type acting, but in plays, that one has to put at least 80% of oneself in a role, and have to leave 20% out. That just to remember, no, I'm not this character. So one can get completely into a role, but with that 20% be able to pull out, because otherwise, at the end of every performance, particularly in a play that is repeated every night, they will be completely exhausted and completely worn out and affected by the vicissitudes, by the changing, by the emotions, by all these interactions. If one is not a professional, will be completely wiped out. So a professional actor is able to imbibe the role, 80% of it, and then pull out by the 20%. So I'm fine. I'm not that person that I was representing a moment ago for the last 2 hours. So we should be like professional actors, that we do our duty and we do the best we can, but we are perfectly aware that we are spirit souls, and everybody else is as well. Even our children, even the people that are closest to us, they are independent from us. They don't depend on us, they depend on Krishna. So we have to help everybody go back to their original position of serving Krishna. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's all I have.
This was a very complete and thorough answer, and actually it answered more of what I had in my heart than what I really asked. So thank you. I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there is nothing else, we'll move on with our tiny, insignificant lives in the service of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry, it was a default sit-in for me. I was hoping that someone else will give class, but hopefully you won't have to see me for a while. All right. Jai, oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Radha Madara ki jai.